Welcome to Marketplace Tech Bytes, our weekly review of some of the biggest stories making headlines across the industry. I'm Lily Jamali. This week, Sam Altman returns as OpenAI CEO following uncertainty and confusion. The CEO of Cruise resigns after concerns over robo-taxi safety, and we look at venture capital. Where is the money going now? I'm joined this week by Jewel Burks Solomon. She is managing partner at Collab Capital. Welcome to you, Jewel.
Thanks so much, Lily. I'm excited to be here.
We're really excited to have you here as well. So we're going to start, as always, with our Bite of the Week. This is where we have our guests bring us a number that offers some insight into the week in tech. Jewel, what do you have for us this week?
This week, the Bite of the Week is 4, and that is the number of days since Sam Altman was fired and now rehired as the leader of OpenAI.
Yeah, fired on Friday, back by midweek. Pretty impressive, actually. The company saying it has reached an agreement in principle for Sam Altman to return as CEO, and this is very noteworthy, with a new board. So there's a lot going on here. Jewel, walk us through, if you would, the main factors that you think drove this decision.
Well, it's honestly very unclear at this point still. What was the main reason as to why Sam Altman was fired in what was a huge shocker to so many in the tech industry, and apparently to Sam himself and the other staff and leaders at OpenAI? It's really hasn't been super clear what the actual reason is. There's been talk around transparency and decision-making, communication, but we really haven't gotten, even to this day, what is the real reason that all of this happened. But now it seems that there was enough of a sort of uproar from OpenAI employees, 95% of them signing a letter to say that they would also leave if Sam wasn't brought back. And it seems that, the company has come to a decision to bring him back along with a new board. So there's going to be, a big change and shift potentially as far as how the company is operating with that new board in place. But this is still, an unfolding situation that I think everyone is, glued to see what happens next.
Yeah, it really is. For a couple of days, it looked like he was set to go over to Microsoft and start a new AI research lab there. But Altman tweeting/posting that he made this move back to OpenAI with the support of Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. I'm wondering, where do you think this leaves Microsoft, which of course is a big investor in OpenAI?
Huge investor, $13 billion into OpenAI. And I think, they were obviously wanting to take advantage of any motion that was happening related to Sam Altman, making him an offer on Sunday, I believe it was, to join them. But it sounds like Satya is also supportive of the move of Sam back to OpenAI. So there is a very tight relationship between Microsoft and OpenAI. It seems that they will continue to have that given the deep investment that Microsoft has made into OpenAI. Remains to be seen if perhaps that last board seat that hasn't been named maybe will go to a Microsoft team member executive. I think there, for all of us outsiders looking in, there should be, to a certain extent, perhaps some level of governance overhaul and change, and maybe Microsoft will take a step in there. We'll see. But certainly, a very close relationship between those parties.
Yeah. And, the old board, as you alluded to, had cited doubts about Sam Altman's ability to lead this company. This really seemed to boil down to a battle between safety and scale/commercialization of this technology. Has the balance shifted to one side with Altman coming back?
We'll see. There is this interesting nonprofit versus profit conversation in terms of how OpenAI was initially started. A lot of people maybe don't know this, but OpenAI has been around since 2015 and was initially started as a nonprofit, really with this idea that there needed to be more openness and transparency around development of these large language models and AI. And now that there has been such commercial success for ChatGPT, and sounds like there has been internal tension around where developers should be spending time and, where the company should be focusing, we'll see, where does it actually land? Is it going to go more toward the for-profit pathway and the roadmap around the for-profit development, or is it going to be stay where it is as a nonprofit? We'll see what happens there. But I think there's always going to be, and this is a really interesting structure that they've had with a nonprofit kind of overlay on top of a for-profit entity. But because of the commercial success and really, we're all talking about ChatGPT, and I think it will be Thanksgiving conversation this year of, have you used it? Have you tried it? There is that tension there between those worlds.
No doubt we will, as we come up on the 1-year anniversary of ChatGPT's release to the public. Can't believe it's been just a year. And I love this, before we move on, someone joking on X that we all just witnessed the equivalent of 3 seasons of Succession. This was tweeted, by the way, before Sam Altman came back. So I think we're up to season 4 or maybe even 5 at this point.
Yes, yes.
Well, fair to say all of this overshadowed another pretty big tech story this week, and that is trouble at Cruise, our second story. The driverless car subsidiary of General Motors, CEO Kyle Vogt resigning this past week. Jewel, Cruise had one really good week this year. This was a couple of months ago when the CPUC, that's the California Public Utilities Commission, let them expand their driverless taxi service in San Francisco. And then the steady slide began for this company pretty much right away. Where do you think Cruise goes from here? Is there a future for this company?
I believe there is a future for this company and for driverless vehicles more broadly. But I think that it has to take a major step back and a slowdown, perhaps, in terms of its compliance, its regulation. I think the regulators are looking very deeply into the operations and, again, the transparency of this company. Overall, what we're seeing is the big vision for autonomous vehicles was around and is around safety. But if there are these major and unfortunate accidents that have happened where we've had fatality, there has to be a really deep look and step back to make sure that we are on the right path with this company and all others that are focused in this area.
Right. And there were several mishaps involving these Cruise vehicles over the last couple of months, but the turning point really came in October when a Cruise vehicle ran over and dragged a woman for several feet. Regulators say that Cruise omitted footage from that incident, but, there's some dispute over that from the company. They did end up making Cruise stop operations here in California, and then 2 days later, we see Cruise itself pausing driverless operations across the country. We have to talk about General Motors and what this means for Mary Barra and her company. This subsidiary was supposed to be a really important growth driver for GM.
Yeah, it was. And they're obviously going to have to take another look to see what can they do to, one, make sure that the company is compliant and taking care of all of the regulatory questions that are out there looming. And what does the future of Cruise under GM look like? Can they keep moving forward, or are they going to have to look for potential other growth strategies to meet the numbers that they have to meet?
Well, not long ago, there were all kinds of companies piling into driverless car tech. Not many made it, and Cruise until recently was seen as one of the survivors. We shall see where things land for them. But worth noting, too, AV tech was once a huge target for venture capitalists, which brings us to our third and final story. We want to know, where is that VC money flowing now? Jewel, what are you seeing?
Well, the reality is it's been pretty slow across all industries except AI and, industries like driverless vehicles as of late. And right now, one of the trends that's happening is that there's actually been a boost in Silicon Valley as it relates to capital flowing. But you have to look at that from a macro picture of 40% down this year for venture capital investments. So yes, there have been more investments happening in Silicon Valley, but across the board, much lower deployment from VC firms like mine into new technologies. And I think that is a symptom of the larger macro story that we've seen, which is that there's been, it's been a rocky year in the markets. And so you're seeing a lot of venture capital firms sit on dry powder. So not making as many investments and really being cautious in pretty much across the board, with the exception of new companies that are building in AI. So most of those dollars are flowing into that space.
That's right. This is huge. And here in the Bay Area, my conversations with people in the tech community have made it very clear. Folks here are very keen to keep the money here, to keep this as the focal point as AI flourishes. I wonder from you, we are seeing a notable pullback in VC investments in crypto. Got to ask you about the founder of Binance, CZ as he is known, pleading guilty to violating money laundering rules. So we now have him, and we now have Sam Bankman-Fried, the Justice Department, having a very good month in terms of kind of cracking down. These are the two, at one point, the guys running the two biggest crypto exchanges in the world. How do you think VCs are going to be looking at crypto going forward?
Crypto has certainly fallen out of favor with many VCs that I know and have been talking to. For many VCs, we weren't able to invest in crypto companies because depending on who our limited partners are, there's different regulations. And I think many of us who didn't get into investing in crypto are breathing a sigh of relief right now. And those that maybe did go all in crypto are maybe thinking twice about the decision making there. But it is unfortunate to see that there have been so many billions of dollars that have gone into these spaces and not great leadership on the part of the folks that are leading these major companies in the space. And, we're seeing that with $4.3 billion is what Binance has had to pay to the U.S. government. And so, there's obviously a lot of dollars that are being pulled out of that exchange. So there's lots happening in this space. This was a very, active week across the board in technology. And we'll watch and see what happens for the future of crypto.
Yeah, I just want to underscore that number that you threw out there. 4.3 billion with a B dollars is the fine that we're talking about here. That's huge. Well, Jewel Burks Solomon of Collab Capital, so good to have you here. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
And thanks to all of you for joining us for Marketplace Tech Bytes Week in Review. Daniel Shin produced this episode, and I'm Lily Jamali. This is 8 p.m.